The Watchers stood back and observed their loved ones, the giants, whom they'd begotten with the daughters of men, kill each other off in a war of the Titans. And then Yahuwah bound them under the hills and the valleys of the earth, where they were to remain in total darkness for 70 generations. 70 generations until their release. 70 times 70. That's a long time to think. And the text reads as follows. And Yahuwah said to Michael, "Go, bind Samjaza and his team who have associated with women and have defiled themselves in all their uncleanness. When their sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations under the hills of the earth, until the day of the consumption of their judgment, and until the eternal judgment is accomplished. In those days they shall be led off to the abyss of fire, into the torment and the prison in which they shall be confined forever." Enoch 10:11 through 13. Now, I'm not going to do the exact math, and there's reasons for that, but know this. The incursion happened somewhere in the time frame of 1,000 years before the flood. When the floodwaters eventually came, Enoch was already long gone, 700 years by my count. Give or take a few decades, their release happens to land somewhere in the mid to late 19th century. And this is by official time estimates. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, it's 1870. In the mid to late 19th century, something happened. Within the lifespan of only 2 or 3 generations, the world was introduced to evolution, theosophy, transhumanism, spiritism, tongue babbling, kundalini, New Ageism, 100 different variations of Bible translations, eugenics, the spiraling double helix DNA, scientism, archaeology, Nietzsche, Freud, space itself, deep space telescopes, satellites, flying saucers, aliens, science fiction, the atomic age, biochemical weapons, germ theory, vaccines, world wars, Zionism, communism, the CIA, movies, transistor radio, television, MK Ultra, computers, video games, the internet, performance, witchcraft, and alchemy on a worldwide stage, and I've barely begun to dig in. Like the Big Bang cosmology of a Ouroboros, sometime in the later part of the 19th century, the mysteries of heaven simply exploded upon the earth. Before throwing them into the darkness the first time, Yahuwah gave Enoch the following message to tell them. "You have been in heaven, but all the mysteries had not yet been revealed to you, and you knew worthless ones. And these, in the hardness of your hearts, you have made known to the women, and through these mysteries, women and men work much evil on the earth." That's Enoch 16:3. 70 generations. Ironically, right about the time when the book of Enoch was being rediscovered. And this shouldn't surprise us, since Enoch opened his book by warning his reader. "And I heard everything from them, and I saw and understood. But it was not for this generation to know, but for a remote one which is to come." It's the second verse of Enoch 1. Then again, calculations may prove impossible to do. As ironic as this may seem, the phantom time hypothesis is seeming far more reliable than any timeline the official narrative has ever given. For example, I'm highly critical that the Middle Ages ever happened at all. Its invention, whereas everyone was dumbed down, dirty, illiterate, and sad for several hundred years, is spoon-fed to us as the Dark Ages and then it's regurgitated over and over again, so much as to hide a greater truth. Maybe Tatari. Perhaps we're really only 1,000 years removed from Messiah. Who really knows? And besides, that whole Anno Domini debacle we find ourselves in was probably an attempt by the Roman Catholic Church to disguise Yahuwah's history and the timeline of Messiah's return. My entire point being, we have no possible way of knowing what of official history is actually true, much less what hour we're actually truly living in. It wasn't an easy thing to do, but I've accepted that fact for now. They tell us that Scripture is invented and doctored by a later generation, and so I return my gaze upon them. It is they who have doctored everything. Their first big deception, I'm finally beginning to believe, once the Watchers were released from their prison, was to massage human history. Perhaps even completely rewrite it and rework it. But something happened in the mid-19th century. Let's just call it a reset. One might even wonder if their release coincided with and may in fact have even caused the worldwide mud floods. True history is being hidden from us. I said mud floods. Perfect time for a reset. This is taken in part from a good brother, Noel Hadley, and his blog, Our Way is the Highway. Link in the description. A must read.